77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.
Excuse me! Taxi!
Come on, what are you doing? This is the 77 WABC minicast.
There are reports now that Governor Kathy Hochul is agreeing to lower the threshold on that second home tax for New York City. Remember, it was $5 million. And of course, Mondani standing famously in front of Ken Griffin's home. And now there are reports that Kathy Hochul is looking at lowering the threshold to a market value, John, of $1 million.
Is there any apartment or is there any condos in New York that are less than $1 million?
Yeah, that's the point. How is that affecting her? Their whole thing is to tax the rich. Forgive me, in New York City, $1 million.
Well, you're
That's
taxing,
not rich.
Right.
You're taxing the
Middle
lower
class.
middle class.
Exactly.
lower middle class.
That means they're going to go after everybody.
So
what
that
happened to
means
tax the rich?
He's been doing those clips in front of a school teacher and a nurse's house.
Yeah, that's next ad, right? That's the next
All right,
ad.
why don't we go to Melissa DeRosa, who nobody knows Albany better than Melissa DeRosa.
Melissa, of course, the former senior aide to then Governor Andrew Cuomo. Melissa, what's your reaction to this big breaking news that now they're lowering it from $5 million to $1 million?
Well, first of all, I was going to say Governor Patterson, who's sitting there, may take issue. I think he may know as much or if not more about Albany than I do. But there's two things that came out of today. There is that they're lowering the pied-à-terre tax from the $5 million to $1 million threshold. And then on top of that, if you pay for your primary residence in cash and your primary residence is $1 million or more, you're going to pay an additional tax. So, first of all, Kathy Hochul belongs on the U.S. Olympic gymnastics team. The amount of flip-flopping that she has done in the last several weeks. I mean, if Bruce Blakeman had a pulse, she would have a real problem. And we're waiting to see whether or not that guy wakes up and starts to demonstrate he can run a real campaign. But what she's doing here to appease Mamdani at the expense of New Yorkers, this is, to your point, a cop and a nurse, a cop and a teacher, a firefighter and a teacher. These are the cost of apartments in New York City is so astronomical. And anyone who lives in New York City will tell you the cost of a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan is $800,000-900,000, maybe $1 million. And right now, as your listeners know, interest rates are through the roof, right? So if you're able to cobble together enough money to realize the American dream, which is home ownership, and you're trying to decide, am I going to pay this in cash because I can cobble together the money, maybe I can borrow it from a relative, maybe I've put money away for years and years and years, and I want to pay for it in cash because the interest rate is 6%, and it will end up costing me more to lay out that money than to save it and get a mortgage, then the government is going to tax that decision. So essentially you're helping banks and mortgage lenders over the actual people that are your constituents
Melissa,
that live in New York.
Judge Weinberg.
$1 million. I'm not too good at arithmetic, but I was pretty good at political science, history, and law. But 2% of $1 million is $20,000.
Yes,
that's real money to people, to nurses and school teachers.
The mansion tax on its own. I remember when I was buying an apartment a couple 10 years ago. It was 2016. I got married. My husband then and I were buying a place in Brooklyn Heights. And I remember when we realized we had to pay the mansion tax on top of the closing taxes, on top of the apartment. You're crushing people and you're preventing them from being able to buy something that then they can at least invest in and pass down or feel like they've got some stability in. But, Kathy Hochul, who does not have a primary, she's got no heat from the left. The lengths to which she is going to appease this socialist who should do what every other family in America has to do, which is sit around a table and figure out the way to make the dollars and cents work. You cannot spend more than you take in. And that's what they're doing. And what she's doing in bailing him out this year with the $1.5 billion plus all these taxes, plus all these fees, is she is going to ensure that we are right back in the same position, but worse next year, on top of the pension amortization that she's allowing him to do. So this is just a disaster, but make no mistake, this is not just Zoran Mamdani's fault. He has a group of enablers in Albany who are allowing him to do this without making tough choices, and it's going to make it more expensive for everyone in the city of New York this year, next year, the year after, and it's going to cause more people to leave. Not just the wealthy, but the middle class and the upper middle class who are every day scrimping and saving to be able to cobble something together to buy a home, who are then going to be able to not do that because of the actions of this governor, this legislature, and this mayor.
But Melissa, also to this point, I mean, he stood the other day, Mamdani stood the other day, I was watching him with his tax the rich sign as he was talking about the budget. So to what we're all saying, I would imagine there's going to be backlash. I mean, first of all, there was plenty of backlash just by driving out big business folks like Ken Griffin and others. The report is that Mamdani's trying to meet with Ken Griffin, and Ken Griffin doesn't want to meet with him at this point because he's so angry at what happened. And yet, if you're socking it to a teacher or a nurse, they've got to all speak out. I mean, they have to know that there is going to be tremendous backlash, even more than they're already doing.
So the way that you make your voice heard is you vote with your feet, right? I say this all the time. Trump's numbers might be in the toilet right now nationally, but when you look at where the out-migration patterns are, the states that are gaining population, which is a more powerful message because it's where you're actually choosing to live, is Texas, is Florida, is Tennessee, is Georgia. It's states with lower taxes, with less regulation, and with people who are not doing everything that they can to force you to spend every single dollar you make and putting into government programs that, frankly, don't give you anything back in return.
I want to point out to all the listeners, we may have 1 million listeners out there, I want to point out to all listeners that the state of Florida has almost 24 million people, and the taxes are less than New York City with 8.5 million people. I think Florida is 119 billion. New York City is 127, 129 billion.
Yeah, he just came in at about 124 billion. You're absolutely right, John. It's unbelievable. They run the entire state on a fraction of what the city does with 8.5 million people. And, by the way, our students consistently are at the bottom of the pack when it comes to math, when it comes to literacy, when it comes to all of these basic things that we are spending all of this money to provide. The results aren't there. At some point, you reach a tipping point, and I think that we're there. And good for Ken Griffin for not taking the meeting with Zoran Mamdani, because he should not be told that his behavior is acceptable. I actually think the business community needs to make a larger statement. I think a bunch of the banks, a bunch of the different firms need to come together and say, we're out, we're going. Because this to me feels like an extension. I know you guys remember this very well. I was on the forefront of it. 2017, we killed ourselves to win the Amazon competition. 25,000 good paying jobs to be in Queens, New York. AOC, Mike Generis, the lefties in the legislature all started to protest. We hate Bezos. We hate billionaires, all these things. And you know what happened? Jeff Bezos picked up the phone and called Andrew Cuomo and said, I'm so sorry, Governor. We are not going to put up with this.
Can we pick it and say we hate dumb people?
Too many to pick it.
Yeah,
too many to pick it.
Exactly.
It's the famous Ed Koch line, right? The people have spoken, and now they must be punished. There is going to be very real consequences for this government. And what Albany is doing and enabling all of this is going to cost our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come as more people leave, despite the fact that the costs continue to balloon. So sound the alarm to everyone that you speak to about what's going on, because this is not a this year issue. This is the foreseeable future issue. And those of us who love New York and care about New York need to be speaking up.
And Melissa, before we let you go, there's also reports that Mamdani is not going to go to the Israel Day parade. I mean, this comes after we've seen these protests taking place at Jewish locations 2 in a week. And his response
these aren't protests,
has been,
these are riots.
Well, that's my
these
point.
Are riots.
His comments, Judge, have been so tepid and lackluster. He's been propping up the protesters, saying it's free speech and going after Israel. I mean, that's going to drive people out even more so.
No, look, the one thing the guy's been consistent on, he flip-flops on everything. The one thing he has been consistent on is his total and utter hatred and disdain for Israel. And his wife, liking and retweeting posts that celebrate the rape and murder of innocent people in Israel after October 7th, refusing to say that I'm going to denounce, globalize the Intifada, which is a terrorist cry. So does it surprise me? No. Did it have any repercussions in the election last year? No.
Let's see what happens at the Israeli parade, because they're threatening Governor Hochul that if she shows up, there'll be heck to pay.
Well, look, she is his number one enabler. So at some point, she's got to start to feel the heat from that, or we all just have to accept the fact that both the city and the state are run by the Democratic Socialists of America and their anti-Israel ways, and it just is what it is. So, at some point, people have to feel heat for their consequences, or else it's just going to continue on like this.
Okay, we have to go to the world stories right now, and thank you for the update on Albany and New York City,
Melissa.
New York State.
Thanks, Melissa.
And Melissa, keep fighting.
All right, guys, talk soon. Bye.
Thank you.